things that I find in Cobb County is that we don't really, it's especially in our community that really know Cobb County. We came here in the early 70s. And when we came here, I mean, you're talking about the 70s. When we tried to move into an apartment in Smyrna, they had never, in the history of Cobb County, rented to a black person. In Smyrna, Georgia, we were the first black people to live in Andover apartments. They had never, ever rented to black folks.
Isn't that amazing?
It was amazing. You're talking about the 70s. We're not talking about the 40s, 50s, or 60s. We're talking about in 1971, 72 when we came here.
Well, let me ask you a question. I know I'm repeating it, but we're going to get you on film saying this.
We're rolling right now.
We're rolling right now. So, one of the unique things that's helped Cobb County grow and grow productively is the issue of race, which is always there, always will be.
Mm-hmm.
Has it erupted into big riots and
Right.
having people come from other cities to stir folks up? Tell me why we haven't had that in Cobb County.
Well, I don't know why we haven't had it. Because one of the things, even coming here in 71, people in Cobb County were sort of comfortable. At least, like I said, I mean, it was interesting not to know that nobody had never lived in those apartments in Cobb County. But there was nobody, like you're saying. As a black person, there was nobody raising the issue. You know what I'm saying? I'm comfortable because even when we came here in 70 and Jesse was at Dobbins, what really happened was when we went to the base commander and said, hey, we're just coming here. This is my wife and 2 kids. We want a place to stay. We riding up and down 41, living in hotels, this, that, and the other. But everybody was comfortable, and I must say that throughout our living in Cobb County, I don't think you would have ever saw. I mean, we marched a few times about Hugh Brogan.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it was never to the point of outsiders coming in telling us what to do and how to do it, this, that, and the other.
Why?
Because I think everybody out here in Cobb County was comfortable. You know what I'm saying? They had jobs like Mr. Ferguson. They worked at Lockheed Martin. They were able to pay their bills. And I think that so many of the natives grew up knowing that as long as I'm safe, I mean, you went to all black schools and you went to all white schools. And so my daughter was the first kid to ever go to the elementary school in Smyrna. They had never seen a black kid. But what was interesting about that was she had a teacher that made sure that she was always safe, that people treated her with respect. They learned who this kid was. So even though I lived this place and you lived that place, they never, and Jareen and Jess is interesting to me that as long as we have been here and they were 7 and 9 when we came, they never came home and said that somebody called them the N-word. I mean, you hear more now than you did then. I mean, my kids never, Jareen integrated Smyrna. And David, that's an interesting piece of saying, how come it didn't happen to us? Because we were right across the river from Atlanta.
Well, when I was growing up in a little place called Nashville, Georgia.
Nashville,
Georgia.
Georgia.
It was about 25% black, mostly white, some Hispanics. So it was a good mixture. And the black kids went to black schools, the white kids went to white schools. And I was there when integration started in schools. But I would say I worked in tobacco fields, crop tobacco. and it was a mixture of black and white. I was out there cotton fields. I mean, you almost didn't see color as much as you do some other time. On basketball, I played on a team that was half black, half white, and my best friend was a guy named Bobby Jones, and Bobby drowned. He was a senior. He didn't know how to swim.
But he was black.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. The tall guy, or I can't remember his name right now. I loaned him my car to go on a date. I used to go. Of course, there's white and black school. We used to go over and sit and watch the black kids play basketball because they're a whole lot better than we were. So when we integrated, it was a good thing. All the sports teams got better, and there just wasn't this. I don't know. I think Cobb's something like that. It's just people, and you said people feel comfortable. And when you go back and look at the history of Cobb, the truth is we have been doing that for years and years and years. And I've always attributed to there were leaders of all levels that kept things from exploding. And how we got those leaders, were we lucky?
Well, I think that you were. I based on the fact that we never had race riots in Cobb. I mean, and I've been here over 40 years now. And, you know, you had individual fights because, like I said, we had to fight to get the apartment in Smyrna. Didn't have to fight for my daughter going to that school. She went to that school. But when we moved from the apartments to where we actually live now, we were the first people that had ever lived on my street. I mean, you know, we bought a house that the first thing we wanted was to make sure that we had good schools, which was Sprayberry. Well, they went to J.J. Daniels, and they went to from there to after middle school went to Sprayberry High School. And when Jesse and Jereen was especially Jesse, there was only 9 black kids in Sprayberry High School. And so one of the things, being a big mouth like I am, I'm saying to them, you know, once my daughter got up there, she's never going to be Miss Sprayberry because there's nobody to vote for. But so I think how we got there is that even though we were comfortable, there were still people that fought for things to change.
Who were those people? Who were the we may call this, Ty and I are still debating this, we may call this the godfathers of Cobb. There has to be some people that you know, maybe.
You had Benham. You had Benham was a black attorney at the time. Benham, you had, of course, Strick as always. I'm sure that everybody had mentioned Winston Strickland, how he went up to the courthouse and sold biscuits to the judges. I mean, nobody thought that was beneath them. You know what I'm saying? This is a businessman, owned a barber shop, but he sold biscuits to the judges. They all knew him. So when we came, Zion Baptist Church, when we had the first issue we had about living in Smyrna, we were told to go to Zion Baptist Church. Zion Baptist Church, at the time, it wasn't Dr. Travis, it was Dr. Johnson. Johnson was known all over Cobb County. He lived in Atlanta, but he had this church out here. So one of the things that I found out about Cobb County is, you know, before I went to the NAACP, black people always went to the black churches. Mm-hmm. I mean, so if the churches wasn't telling you you need to do something different, we all was happy. Like you said, we went to black schools, and I was happy. They were happy to go to black schools. White kids went to white schools. And like you having a friend down there in Washington, Georgia, I mean, I think that most of us, when I first came here, and after getting into the apartments, the first thing I did, I met people like Pam Floydnor. I met Marie Barnes. I met people that were doing things. We fought for ERA. ERA got totally killed here in Georgia. I mean, but we did fight. But you we became friends on personal levels. You know what I'm saying? They found out I didn't have a tail, that I was halfway smart, and I'm not very easily intimidated. I will go wherever, you know. I mean, I go to places where I'm not, if I make you uncomfortable, that's your problem. It's not mine, because I'm going to go, and most of the time when I'm someplace, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to be talking about stuff that I don't know what I'm talking about. And you know what, this is an interesting piece, because you say, how did we get it? Because one of the things, well, you know what, you can just look on the TV and all of this stuff going on all over the country, and we still living here peacefully. I mean, once I mean, that house, we had the money, we paid for it. Nobody had ever bought there before, and as long as my kids were safe and we were safe, I mean, but we did. Somebody did burn a cross in our yard when we moved.
That's not funny, but that's just the way that you just
But
there was
that time after we left the apartments and bought that house over there. One day, I guess we was in there, I don't know, maybe having dinner or whatever, and you see this light, because where our house is, there's a big picture window. Look outside, somebody done put a cross and was burning. We didn't find out who did it or what happened, but one of the things I think that we learned, being military family too, helped us, because prior to coming to Georgia, my kids had always, even when we was in Florida, they always went to integrated schools. My kids never, ever went to a segregated school, because we were military and we lived on a base and we all lived together. So when we came to Georgia, we still all lived together. My my daughter, after she that's why she went to Albany State. She wanted to go around black people. She wanted to be black. And black, you know what I'm saying? So going to Albany State, it was a HBCU, plus it was an all-black school. So, but I as we sit here today, I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I'll tell you my view in the sort of the more contemporary period.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most powerful people in Cobb County when I got here, he sold barbecue and he cut hair. And you probably didn't know that. This was before you, he probably was the most respected human being in Cobb County. Is that what you're okay?
I'm at work.
Okay. He was probably the most respected individual in Cobb County. You wouldn't have known it, because you weren't in the circles with all the white people.
Right.
But if you had a concern or you had an issue, you went strict.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, I knew that when I came to.
That's right.
Yes.
Talk about strict something.
Well, one of the things that I learned about Winston Strickland is just what you're saying. When we came to Cobb County 45 years ago, we knew Reverend Johnson, we knew Winston Strickland, and we also knew the guy that owned the funeral home, Eppinger. They were well-known people here in Cobb County. And one of the things that when we talk about people that know people, once we got here and got established, people wanted to know us, because now Catherine Woods and her husband, now there was a group of people that sort of you went to. Oh, they wanted me, and they invited us. I went to Charles Ferguson's house. Charles Ferguson, I sit in a meeting where we were trying to get a black doctor, who is Dr. Fisher here. Well, Strick was there. Also, when you started doing things in Cobb County, I don't know, based on Dr. Johnson or whomever, we were always included. I've sit in on changes because we were at Ferguson's house where we were deciding about a black doctor. How are we gonna get him here?
One of the things that becomes a problem, whether you're Hispanic, black or white or whatever, is you want to be sure that you're heard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you don't like what I say, just sit down and listen. To be heard. Talk about your view about that, because I think that's one of the good things in Cobb County. There was somebody to listen, like in a more contemporary. When you talk, the superintendents listen.
Oh, definitely.
So back in those days, just talk about the key people like
the key people.
Respect.
Let me tell you, one of the key people that I talked to is Al Burrs, that had Tip Top Bakery. Al was a representative, and I lived here in Cobb County. And I've always, I guess, got involved. I went to Al, and I was asking for money. Like, I don't know what I was going to do with it. I was not that well known in the NAACP. I was a member. But Al Burrs told me, he said, Deanne, I'll give you anything you ask me for. He said, but I'll tell you this. If you get out there and tell the people that I did it, I'm going to deny it. I mean, so this is what when you talk about when you build relationships, you know what I'm saying? So I know that the people, you do have to listen. And that was one of the things that led me, when I became the president of the NAACP, I had gotten the respect of most of the people that I knew. I mean, most of the people they knew that I would tell them the truth. I was not ever anything but a black female. You know, when I went through the commissioners, Bill Burns was the commissioner too, that I went in his office. And he actually told me this meeting is over. He tried to put me out of his office and I wouldn't go. And to this day, if you ask him, he think I'm the finest female that ever hit Cobb County. But that was because we got past the fact that he didn't want to hear what I had to say. I was not the president. I don't know who I was or why was I up there. But I went to his office to talk to him about, he was trying, Bill Burns, this was during the Olympics. You know, he was very anti-everything, not being anti-gay, anti-black, anti-blah. And so the fact that, as I said, most of the time I try to research and know what I'm talking about. So when I'm talking to him about what we see, he just told me, this meeting's over. You got to get out of here. I'm not going anyplace. I'm a taxpayer. So he had to hear what I had to say. We sit there and, you know, we certainly during his tenure, he knew my stand and he knew that, you know, we're not going anyplace. We done paved the way and we're going to be here. So building old relationships. Bill, and then was it Sam? Oh yeah, I mean they used to, when they see Sam Olin
Yeah.
became the chairman. Sam did so much for Cobb County. He really did.
Well, let me talk about somebody else who will be legendary, and that's David Hankers.
Oh my
So
goodness.
talk to them about David Hankers. I mean, have a county manager
30-something
this
years.
big, and to be black at that point in history was unusual.
Very
So
unusual.
talk about
Very unusual. When one of the things about David is, David and I knew each other not that well, but I know having him the county manager of Cobb County was a coup for us. So, you know, when you're in your private circles, you bragging about David Hankerson being the county manager for Cobb County. At the time they were doing, Cobb County was doing the MLK celebration, and the group that was doing it dropped it. David Hankerson called me and said, Miss Bonner, that they're not going to do it. Can we do it? Which at this particular time was NAACP. And so we took it. But David, for us, was always a person that we prided on saying. Say if I'm at a convention, I could always say, well, we got a black county manager, it's David Hankerson, and that, that was something that we probably didn't even have anything to do with it, because I think Bill Burns was the one that hired him.
Yeah. Well, when we talked a few minutes ago about having a voice, I always thought David Hankerson, if you had a problem with Cobb County government, you could go to David Hankerson. He was
Exactly.
sympathetic.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. But the one thing though I have to tell you, David, is that the African American community, the black community, felt like David Hankerson dropped the ball on Wanda Stokes when she was with pretrial, and they came up with letting her go. They felt like David should have did a lot more about that, because he was running the county. He could have gotten her job back or did a lot more. We went to him and talked to him about it, and he intervened. But I think the powers that be was on. It was, what's his name, the little guy, the little Hitler now. I don't put that in there. I know you're gonna scratch that out. But he lost his job to Joyette.
Okay.
But he was Wanda's boss, and we went to Wanda to the county several times, and we need to understand that the black community wasn't happy with David Hankerson about the Wanda Span venue.
What was the role? And a lot of people said they played a big role. What was the role of Lockheed in keeping this place stable?
Because
I think back in even those days, they made sure that diversity was a good thing, not a bad thing.
yeah, well, one of the things about Lockheed Martin was, if you Lockheed Martin, like I told you, like Mr. Ferguson, and that may be another reason why there was never a whole lot of turmoil, is because these leading families had jobs. They worked at Lockheed. They were able to keep food on the table for their families. They were able to pay their rent. So you had a job at Lockheed. I'm sure that Lockheed, if you look at the histories, even if you was a janitor at Lockheed Martin, you made more than the average African American that was just walking the streets here. So having Lockheed Martin fulfilled a real peace in probably not having riots. Because if you got a job, and Lockheed gave African American jobs, and I'm just saying, we sure that we were probably more in the janitor's field and whatever, but it was still a job. I mean, and some of our leading citizens that worked at Lockheed Martin was able to probably convey that back to the community, that, I'm making whatever, but I can take care of my kids, I can send them to school, I can do this, that, and the other. So Lockheed would be from the economic piece of stabilizing.
They were a large company, and the one thing that I always understood was they had a culture of no racism, and so people, black and white, were in that environment. They had children, their children had children, and I'm sure Jesse had an experience there that he probably shared with you from time to time about that culture.
Well, one of the things about the reason that we can only give stories of the service, we would never have moved out to those apartments if the base commander hadn't called him and told him, this is a soldier that have been sent here to be at Dobbins Air Force Base. I don't care what else is going on, and he told us there's an apartment vacant, you're going to give it to him. So there was always somebody that made it possible for, especially even when you look at Lockheed Martin, whether you had a black president of Lockheed Martin, you still had somebody at Lockheed Martin that knew that diversity had to be a key part of making Cobb County what it is economically.
Well, we were very fortunate to have Lockheed.
Yes.
And I've always heard, Big Otis always said that was a defining moment for us.
Mm-hmm.
But we also had a military base, and within the military, when you're shooting at people, it doesn't make a difference whether you're black or white. You don't think about that when your life's at risk. So
Right.
talk a little bit about that. What you I think the military had an effect on our character. So talk a little bit about that.
Dobbins was for us. When Jesse came to Dobbins, it was going to be his last assignment. We came here to Georgia, didn't know what to expect. But Jesse out at Dobbins Air Force Base was a crew chief. He had young people that worked under him. He was probably older then. I think when we came here, maybe 27, 28, 29. But anyway, that piece out there gave the guys that worked for him lived in the community. So they black, white, blue, brown, they could always say, well, they love Mr. Bonner because Mr. Bonner was a nice person. He did not, he was just nice. And people like working for folks that treat you with respect. And that's how Jesse was. So, but if Dobbins had not have been placed there with Lockheed Martin, because that's a whole different culture. I would not give, being a military wife and coming from a small town, I had never been out of West Virginia. I mean, and because of the service and the military, I mean, I traveled all over the country, been to Turkey, been there. So coming to Georgia was really, as I've finished up whatever God has for me in this world today, I wouldn't want to be anyplace else but Georgia. I mean, I really learned that because we all have got to determine how we're going to live. I'm not going to live in fear. I'm not going to be intimidated. And one of the things I think that probably when I came here, we were like 10%, went on up 13, and now we're like 30% of Cobb County. We could not have that kind of growth if there was not something positive going on.
Yeah. Talking about that change, I think Brian Kemp is going to be the last white governor of Georgia for a long, long time.
David.
What?
Let me tell you, you really broke my heart with that, because one of the things about Mr. Connell was he knew Casey. Mm-hmm. Because he knew Casey knew me.
That's right.
I was so happy that the next governor of Georgia was going to be somebody that knew. Actually, I could call him up on the phone and say, hey, this is Deanne. He was going to know me. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to do the same thing for you when Kemp gets in office. I am going to be sure that you two talk and get the definition of what he needs to do for the state of Georgia. Do you like Stacey? Would she have been a good governor?
Let me tell you, Stacey Abrams would have been a good governor based on her platform. There's a lot on her platform that, as a legislator, that she learned that I never would have learned or know how to take care of. But I tell you what, I was totally prepared for Casey to be the next governor of Georgia as a citizen of Georgia. And I'm not going to be political because I don't think that That's for me to people go to the polls and vote for whomever, and we now have a governor, and I won't. But I looked forward to, because I had met him. I do not know the current governor. I do not know, and I know Stacey Abrams as a legislator.
You know, people down there that work with her, and I've heard this long before she ran. She's the smartest person in the Georgia General Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you hear her talk on TV ads and all that, you can tell she's
Oh,
intelligent.
definitely smart. There's no
Very,
doubt
very
about it that she's smart. She did a lot with the NAACP throughout the years. That's how I knew her. But I know you better than I know her, because I never just sit down and had a conversation with her. We have invited her to, as if you talk about 20 years with the NAACP, at our state conventions, they have had Stacey Abrams to speak. And so, and I say to you that without a doubt, her presence, there's no doubt about it. She's smart.
By the way, as we do this, if you have stories, Ty and I know, you know, people will watch talking heads. Some you have to integrate them with pictures.
Right.
But people love stories,
Mm-hmm.
war stories. So
Mhm.
as we go along, if you think of one, like Bill Burns' story,
Like Bill
great.
Burns'
That's great. If there was something you did in one of the schools that set a standard, and we'll come back to that in a minute. When I came out here and you and I met for the first time, Georgia Power had gone through a diversity program because of a race issue we had. So you and I got connected, and we decided we needed to do something bold.
Yes,
You
we
and I went the
did.
trip to
Yes,
Birmingham.
Birmingham together.
And it still impacted. A lot of people didn't know David Hankerson. They knew when it was over. But it was also a statement. I want you to talk. That's a defining moment in history.
Oh, it was definitely a defining moment. I mean, because you know what, and I can't talk about the defining history without talking about you. Because when we did get together on that trip, I mean, I looked at those pictures. I did not know Pat Vaughn, that became the mayor of Powder Springs after that trip. When the visionary of that trip was so far in advance, to be a part of it and to help make it happen was probably one of, if I did a biography, that would be in it. Because going to Birmingham, and the point is, when we met to talk about, we went to Birmingham because Birmingham is a deep South too, but Birmingham had already proved that you could make race relations better. They had a pure example. So sitting there for 2.5 days with people that had the same vision and commitment that we put in place to make that happen was, like you said, it ought to be a template for how it can be done. Because regardless of whatever our upbringing and what we think, this was close quarters. Back in how long ago was that? 10 years ago?
Longer than that, I'd say it's about 12, 13 years ago.
12 or 13, to have that type of, and just like you said, people came to you all at Georgia Power and said all is not well. And for somebody to say, what can we do to make it better? And even going back to your original piece about how do we get there? That's how we got there. Because you have to sit down, you have to listen. Real life experiences. To me, that was so innovative, to take all of these diverse people and get on a bus. We had to ride over to Birmingham together. So, you're talking and you figure out, the girl that was over Six Flags, I asked, keep the success of that was key people that could make a difference and key people that were willing to listen.
Well, I also think it was symbolic that you and I were doing this together, black and white. I also think it was a defining moment because it put you in a spotlight that you'd never been in before.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so you could just talk a little bit about that because you were already well known. But after that trip, there were a lot of people who didn't know. Yeah,
That's right. That very significant for me, because when David recommended the trip that we go, my vision didn't go that far. I mean, I got on that bus with not knowing. I knew Ellen and I knew David. And when you get on the bus and you got all of these high profile people that make decisions in Cobb County, just what you said. When we came back from that two and a half days, Bonner's name was definitely known throughout Cobb County. People that didn't know me. I mean, it is so interesting to me that just like today, when we talk about the election that just passed, Mary Frances Williams came to me. I am sick as a dog. She said, "Oh, you're a legend in Cobb County." Yeah, I'm a legend. The reason I'm a legend is because you all made me that. I mean, because you gave me the opportunity to be there and to show that, hey, you know, whatever you may think of Bonner, you don't even know Bonner. You know, but people that really get to know me, that's what makes me a legend, because they know I'm going to listen. I mean, I'm going to rant and rave, but I'm still going to listen. I want the best for all of us, because one of the things that the NAACP gave me was a true sense of the underserved.
Well, I'll tell you though, Ms. Bonner, I and others gave you an opportunity, but you demonstrated what you could do like nobody's business. And I would tell you that, and I told people this, if I got a call and Ellen walked in and gave me a note and said the governor's called, and then a minute later brought a note and said Deanne Bonner's called you, I'd call you first.
Well, I believe that. Let me tell you that happened. That happened here in Cobb County. There is probably no elected official in the 6 cities in Cobb County that will not call us back. When I could say, maybe I could say Deanne Bonner, they call me back. But when I say the NAACP, they definitely call me back, because we have had to, I have been very serious about, I came in one way, and the exposure that the leaders of Cobb have given me has made me somebody that they know that we could probably stop a riot, or we know in this room right here, every police chief in the 6 cities of Cobb County sit right in this room when they had the stuff out in that Brown boy, they had the killer. I mean, we seemed one of the things to get ahead of the curve. Okay, so what if this happened in Cobb County? We can get on the phone and call up all of these chiefs and say, well, hey, how are we going to handle this? We're not going to let a boy sit out in the street for 4 hours. You know what I'm saying? We're going to find out what's happening. So it's been a learning curve. And that's why you get respect. Call them up. They all came, sit right in this room. We talked about what can we do to make things better if it happens here in Cobb County. We've had shootings and killings, but we worked through them.
You know, Ty, you wouldn't know this, but there's very few communities that would happen in. And if it happened, it only happened because you were in the ditch. You acted proactively, built trust, so when you did call people, they know you weren't wasting their time.
Well, I tend to agree with that. I have been blessed in that sense, because even Bill Burns, all of them, like Bill gonna try to put me out of his office. I'm not going. Sam Olin, we went to him and said to him, you got to diversify. You got 6 department heads. Somebody got to be other than them 6 white boys you got up there, the 6 white. We've got to change that. Sam worked. I mean, when he left. I mean, and even when we talk about where we have all the changes up at Kennesaw State University that was started out as just a little place here in Cobb County. When Dan Papp was up there, Dan Papp led by examples. I mean, there was 6 departments heads at KSU. And we said to him that you need to diversify that. By the time he left, it was 3 and 3. You know.
Yeah, and you do this, and you don't even know it sometimes, that people see you, and it changes the way they think about things. But if you were in this room right now and talking to a group of, and you do it already, a group of young, up-and-coming African Americans, and based on your experience, what would you tell them about life, about fitting in, about standing your ground? What do you tell them?
Well, what I would tell a young person today is, in our youth council, is that stop just sitting on. You can't sit on the sidelines. All of us can make contributions. I mean, you need to learn. God done gave you this little pea brain in your head, so you have got to learn that. You need to research. One of the things, I rarely look at TV after, I try to look at 11 o'clock news, but I will tell young folks, this is your time. You have got to pick that gavel up. And if you live in Cobb County, you need to know who your elected officials are. You need to know when they have school board meetings. You've got to find a way to make it better. I mean, you don't always want to hear the bad stories. You want to figure out, okay, now how can I make this better? Like our youth symposium, this thing that you have right here, this is one of the most fascinating things that the NAACP have did. This is anywhere from 100 to 110 young folks that go to Turner Chapel in January with our MLK thing. And you listen to what they see. You listen to, okay, you saying, how are you going to change the world? We're not talking about being no basketball player. You know, we're talking about, well, do you know about being a judge up at the courthouse? Do you know about being something other than black kids just want to bounce the ball, shoot, and play football? Sports is not the only thing that you got that brain for. You've got to learn that you got to figure out technology, which a lot of them know. They know a lot more than I do. But you encourage them to know that you can make a difference. You need to do your homework, research, and get out there and grab whatever is flying around.
I would tell a lot of people, and they almost wouldn't believe it, that through your leadership, we had something called a Freedom Fund Bank. And we always have a black and a white person cheering.
Yeah.
I want you to talk, because that's so symbolic.
Oh, it's very symbolic. It's very symbolic. After we came back from Birmingham, things really started changing for me and us in Cobb County, because we sort of saw each other differently. They saw that, okay, we can do things together. After that trip, that we can do things together. One of the things for us, it start leading to, we have got to do things together, black and white. When we asked you to be the chairperson for our Freedom Fund, it was always a continuation of what we had started. Every one of our Freedom Fund banquets after we came back became a black, white leader. So if it was a white male, then you would have a black female. If it was a black male, then you would have a white female. So that tradition also helped us be legitimate, because that banquet, the Freedom Fund banquet and the MLK celebration in Cobb County truly brings us together. You're going to see the diversity of Cobb County in those two events.
Well, talk a little bit, because I don't think you will find this anywhere.
I don't believe so either.
When you go and have and this is respect for you, and I don't mean this to go over the top because it's true. You have the Freedom Fund, the MLK Day, and you can look at that audience. You got Superior Court judges, right? You got most of the mayors, if they can come. Mm-hmm. You got the county manager, county commission. You got state elected.
Mm-hmm. They want to come.
Yeah, talk a little bit about
that. The MLK celebration has become, probably we would rank with Marietta. It has become such a unified because it's shared with Cobb County government and us. And so people call us, want to know when it's going to be, because they want to be there. There is Tommy Alligood is something. Cut it off. Just cut it off. Say off. Yeah. Now have MLK celebration based on us, because I went to Tommy Alligood. This is, as the president of NAACP, out of all the cities in Cobb County, Ackworth was not celebrating Dr. King's birthday. So I called the mayor up and I told him, I said, well, we're coming up there and we're going to protest because you don't celebrate MLK Day. Alligood says to me, Deanne, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just
He said, yeah. Okay. He says, let me tell you something. I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, don't come. He said, give me an opportunity to present it to Ackworth City Council about celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. He got a unanimous yes on doing MLK in Ackworth. And ever since then, that's a go. That's really a testimony to working with people that, because the first thing we said to him was, yes, we're coming to your city council meeting and we're going to demand that you do MLK. Because y'all the only city ain't doing it here in Cobb County. He said, give me a chance to talk to the people in Ackworth. And see, that's a win-win situation. Because hearing it from the mayor, which is a good leader, you lead by example. He says to these people, why aren't we celebrating Martin Luther King Day? I'm going to recommend that we do that. And he get a unanimous vote that, hey, so those are the kind of things that we learn from working together and making things work here in Cobb.
Talk about who all goes to your Freedom Fund banquet.
Our Freedom Fund banquet and MLK.
Let's talk about MLK, man.
MLK, without a doubt. You have, if you are in Cobb County, you want to be at MLK. David Hankerson was very key with that, because what we will try to do is, as all of these people come, try to get their names. The list was so long of people that were coming to MLK that we had to stop. But, we had the Superior Court judges, we have the DA, we have the sheriff, we have the school teachers, we have the superintendents, we have anyone that considered himself who's who in Cobb County. And that's why we were at the Civic Center. If you didn't get there early, you would have to be outside. I mean, it became one of the major diverse and so that's how come we continue to know that without a doubt, if you prove that everything is going to be all right, we can work together. And we have our MLK celebration is probably out of the 159 counties in Georgia, we're in the top 5 because Fred Blankenship with 2 has helped make it. But we come together there, and we've had people that get up in front of these 600 or 700 people, very diverse, and say that we gotta live together. You know what I'm saying? And when you hearing this from people that you haven't seen before, like I tell them, I say, you know what? Okay, we got Vic in here today. Y'all before he get out of this building, if you got something to say to him, this is your chance to do it. And it is. It's that opportunity to meet people that you may see on TV or read about in the paper. No, we ain't bringing y'all over here. Catch them on the way out.
Well, you know, one thing that you do when you ask a person with that many folks in the stand, if you're a white mayor, to talk about the life of Martin Luther King, it helps you study.
Yes, and that's what, right. Most of those people, just like the new mayor, Easterly, I mean, you see the ovation that he got. He got up there and talked about, you know what I'm saying? He brought it home to, that, and so if you see that kind of leader that's going to make that difference in a town where everybody got to carry a gun, this is from the top. He's saying that. And when he finished talking, I mean, they clapped and clapped and clapped. So those are real, true victories for us. We like to see that kind of thing happen. That's what we work for.
I found that to be the case even myself. When you don't want to be, you're sensitive, you don't want to say something stupid. And, the white people don't know things that offend black people.
That's true. That don't know.
Just don't know. But you have to study. If you're going to do it well, you have to study the life of MLK.
You're right. You know what? And you're right, David. That you do have to go study. You're going to go in there. Now, you're looking out there, and even at the Freedom Fund banquet, if we're talking about, you're looking at 60 to 70% of those people don't look like you. So the white persons that's up there in front of us, you're going to relate to us. And in order to relate to us, you're going to study. You're going to go out and find, like you said, about Dr. King. One of the major, in fact, we've had him twice. The pilot for Dr. King, we love him.
Well,
we love him.
One of the worst times you asked me to speak one time, Todd, this was awful. She asked me to speak one time, and before me was that guy. He knew Martin Luther King. And then right after him was this little kid that got up and talked about the speech. I dreamed. The kid was about this high, the stool, and he was fabulous. And then here this white guy gets up. Right? I felt about this big. You have screwed me.
Yes, it's true. Y'all put me behind all of this, and I got to get up and talk about. But rarely since we've known each other, that David haven't been a part of making diversity work for us. And the African American community. I mean, we know that his leadership at the chamber, his leadership at Georgia Power, truly have. When he asks, how do we get there? Because you got to have a servant heart like he have to want to do the right thing. He's still living in a white world. You know what I'm saying? But once he met me, I don't even have to second guess David Connell I know that his heart is right, and once you find that out, just like I told you about the story of Bill Burns. Bill Burns and my husband have breakfast over here, and he's always ranting and raving to my husband about, oh, you got one of the finest women in Cobb County. But that was because we got to know each other. I mean, because he really, literally tried to throw me out of his office. So I think listening and learning is probably, especially those of us that, like you talk about a strict, you talk even Judge Benham being the Superior Court judge, the fact that we knew him already, him being a Superior Court judge, helped us in a lot of stuff. Supreme Court, right? Georgia Supreme Court. These are people that we know on a one-on-one basis, and I've said this to you before, and I say it again. You open doors for us that probably never would have been open, because the vision of when we look at, when you were talking earlier about some of the leaders, Barris was a state rep. I knew Tiggs, who was a state rep, and Sam was my rep before Mary Frances took over. But these are people that I could talk to. I can go down to the Capitol and go past that little desk and call out Alicia Thomas Morgan, Erica Thomas, David Wilkerson, Sam Teasley, and even Earhart when I wanted to say something that I knew he wasn't going to like. But I know my reps, and I know people that were making a difference in Cobb County. So these people's on one-on-one, whether you agree or disagree, the fact that they have to hear you out, that makes a world of difference.
Do you remember when Alicia and I co-chaired the Freedom Fund?
Freedom Fund, yeah. Because you wanted Alicia.
What did we call each other?
Yeah, I know you wanted Alicia. When we asked David,
yeah, but we termed ourselves Salt and Pepper.
That's where Salt and Pepper came from for the Freedom Fund banquet. Is when David Connell and Alicia Thomas Morgan was our chair. Yeah. They became the Salt and Pepper. So all of our Freedom Fund banquets after that became Salt and Pepper. We were black and white, and that was working together to make it work.
Well, one of the things I think that separates Cobb from some communities, I've probably written checks to Alicia Thomas Morgan, same amounts. I have other people that are Republicans and whites. Mm-hmm. Even David Scott, I can't tell how many times I've written
I bet
Scott.
you that. I bet.
But that's getting to know people. I know David Scott. I mean, I know him. And I know what he stands for and what he's about.
Tell it.
Yeah.
Well, just what you're saying too, David, have made a difference. There is, and I know personally from the NAACP, when we talk about our banquets, it is a premier landmark or template for others. They can't even believe that we have how diverse MLK and Freedom Fund. There's very few, you go to very few Freedom Fund banquets where you're going to see diversity. I mean, we talk about the state of Georgia, and it's going to be probably an all-black event. And see, and that's how, like, we have encouraged, join in the chamber. You need to be a chamber. And in fact, now our national organization is asking NAACP members, are you a member of the Chamber of Commerce in your community? Because
right. It's important. If you're bringing about change.
If you're bringing about change.
Not protesting, but having a seat at the table.
Mm-hmm. Having a seat at the table. Having a seat at the table is probably the most valuable thing that we as a community can have. And that's what we did. We learned early on after the trip that you need a seat at the table. You're not going to get everything that you want. And see, one of the things is, you learn how to play the game. There's some things we're not going to fight for. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to just let it go. Let somebody else do it. Because we know, I'm going to call David Conway, Georgia Power, and say, look at here. You know, we need this, we need that. But we don't just want you to write us a check. We want you, all of your customers. Your customers need to know that we're there on the same page as you. May not never see those people at Georgia Power, but the fact that we sitting in the room and listening to everything that's going on, we're going to pass it on to you because the underserved don't have a clue.
I don't think I have ever told you this, and I don't know how you would respond to it, but I've had people say, I wish I had had a chance to get to know Martin Luther King Jr. And you know what? I tell them, I mean this. Get to know Deanne Bonner, and you'll know. She'll listen. She'll speak the word. Regardless, she's about doing things, bringing about change in a peaceful way.
Mm-hmm.
If you go down and read his speeches, and I haven't read books about his life, but I've read every speech he's ever given. That describes you. And I don't know if you intentionally did that, but people like him bring about change, and they get a seat at the table, and they do things in a peaceful manner.
Mm-hmm.
So if I hired you, if I was down in Henry County, and I've told you before, you and I are going to go down there and do a project, if you were a consultant, what would you advise a community that we know they're going to start having racial issues, and it's not necessarily just black and white, it could be Hispanic or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give?
What advice I would give these counties that based on especially is you have to have a seat at the table. You know, but you can just well, they doing this downtown, they doing this or they doing that. What I had to do was learn to listen. If you listen, you can bring your problems to the table, but then in order for anything to happen, you need to show people that we can do this. We can do this. When we went to Birmingham and came back, mostly everybody, and if you look at that list and look at those people on there, those are leaders in Cobb County. They now know that it's not all about burning down buildings or carrying signs. You can learn that we have got to live on this earth together, and you got to figure out a way to do it. If I went down to Henry County, when was Colquitt? The guy called us up from Coffee County 2 days ago. Very upset because they don't feel like they have. Who's the mayor? Who's the mayor of that town? Set up a meeting and tell them your concern. I don't think one of the things about Cobb County too is I don't think that a lot of people that lived in Cobb County was upset that we lived one place and y'all lived another. I mean, that didn't bother them. I think that as long as they were able to pay their rent, this, that, and the other, I don't have to live in East Cobb.
Tell me, if you were a consultant again, how would you tell people? You just said you have to have a seat at the table.
Right.
What would you advise them as a way to get a seat at the table?
A way to get a seat at the table is to become visible. Become visible. If you're a taxpayer, you need to, Lisa Cupid says, she said, oh, you don't know what it feels like when I can look out and see that there are, because most people are not you're not going to go to a city council meeting. In the first place, especially for us, which I had to learn. That's how come I really became successful, because most people, if you don't have the means or the resources, you cannot go to a meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You someplace working. I could go to these meetings because, financially, my husband can take care of me. I don't have to worry about no bills to pay, this, that, and the other. But the average person can't go to a 2 o'clock meeting in the afternoon. They can't 7:30 in the morning. They're getting ready to go to work. So my advice to you is you need to find that person in your community that have your thoughts and your vision about what needs to happen, and let them take the message.
I think also, and I played this role.
Get the coat if you want it.
I played this role. I think if you are in a community and you don't have a seat at the table, you have to have a sponsor.
Yes,
You have to have somebody that says you need to have Deanne Bonner at the table.
That's right.
And who knows you, and you said that. But if I were going to advise somebody in another community, I'd say get a sponsor.
Oh yes, without a doubt. You need to, if you are on a one-on-one basis, knowing Linda at Coca-Cola, you have got to, if I couldn't go, because I'm not just going to, if you know that, well, one of the things that this place gave me is the inside track. I mean, because all the who's who in Cobb County know me, but in order, if I'm just going to sit up there and just let it be me, then I'm not doing nothing. I mean, that's why. So when going to Birmingham and seeing all of those other people, I get on the phone and call them.
Yeah. I think you've already hit some of the things. You can't be invisible. You need to be out there and about.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find you a sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be prepared to go.
You need to be prepared.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Don't go sitting at the table without a reason. I'm not gonna go sit at a table with you and all of these people, like these sheriffs in this room, and start talking about what you done did to my nephew. No. You have got to talk about the guards at the jail beating up black inmates. You got to talk about the fact that you need to know what you're talking about in the first place, and you need to have some real concerns. If Neil Warren is sitting here and I'm telling Neil, we got complaints from people that say your guards are beating up black inmates and they're totally disrespecting them. Neil Warren gonna find out if that's true or not, and he gonna call us back and say it, because that's just one side of it. And that was one of the things that I learned. People call him because this is the NAACP and think because they black and they call and talking to a black person, everything that they tell me is the truth. I done found out differently. They lie just like white folks lie. I mean, we have cops. I would never have thought that a cop would really tell a lie, but they will.
Yeah. They're just people.
They're just people. So you have to, and you were hitting on those points, you got to listen.
Well, I'll tell you something else I would advise, and when I say it, you'll say, one way to get closer to people is to share a meal together.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. That is one of the best ways to actually, because when you share a meal together, you got at least an hour to 2 hours of finding out stuff you would never have known otherwise. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You would never have known.
Well, the other thing that I think is important, and you can repeat this back to the camera, is that you get to know the families. I know Jesse.
Oh, yes.
Pam.
Without
So
a doubt.
it's different than just you and I.
You and I, yeah. You get past the fact that you got 2 kids in college. You know what I'm saying? Your mother lives in Iowa. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Those are such bonding relationships that you bond with somebody and feel like, we were having some problems with my grandson. So every time Pam and I got together, we would be talking about these grandkids that done went astray. We done taught them right from wrong, and they still gonna do what they want to do. So that is very key.
I'll tell you another important vehicle. Ty's mother, Ellen.
Oh Lord, have mercy.
She made sure that I got messages from you.
Yes.
She would call
Lord.
me wherever I was.
was.
So she was the executive secretary. So another advice I'd give to
Yeah,
people,
but as to get past that gatekeeper, when you
Right, that's
can't
right.
get to, when you can't get to that person, if you have a person like Ellen Spiceland, Ellen made it. Oh man, she know I love her. This is off the record and all this, but I'm just telling you, if I could use her as an example of how to get to people that you need to get to, you need to know that person and see this what he said. You break bread, you know what's in their heart. There's nothing she wouldn't do for me. And anything that Georgia Power have to offer, Ellen gonna make sure I got it, I knew it, da 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 da. I mean, just
it makes your life a lot easier to have somebody
so
like
much easy.
Because
So-
when I left, Pedro Cherry came in.
That's
We
right.
didn't miss a beat.
We didn't miss a beat. That's because Ellen wasn't gonna let y'all miss a beat.
Well, that's
And
right.
she
She
called
had-
me up and said that they do this, they do that. When we had the workshops to try to get information from y'all to pass to our community, she made sure I was at. Oh man, I don't know where that category go for her, but whatever it is, we need to clone it. We need to document it, and that's how come she's in there with in that Cobb Life, because when I got up there after 20 years, I said, wait a minute, ain't nobody I could talk about no more so than Ellen Spiceland, because she, she if I wrote this crazy stuff and I ain't dotted my I's across my T's, she fixed it up for me. You need
She's a friend.
Oh, definitely. Besides a friend and because see, Georgia Power, although her role as executive secretary, they will never know the real title to what she was for. I don't know how she helped other communities, but for us, she helped put us on the map.
Well, she respected you, and I'm gonna close out with one thing that you have to advise people on. There has to be, and it can be done in a different way. There has to be a level of trust.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of different ways you get there. You don't lie to each other.
But you know what? And I don't just trust. There is people that through my journey here in Cobb County, there are people that I really do trust. There are people that I don't trust. I mean, there are people that I may look at every day and don't trust. But the learning curve for me on this journey in Cobb County is, if you listen and learn and you come across very honest, that's why people, I can be sitting up on the square and people come past and speak to me that I don't have a clue. That's because I'm getting old who they are.
You're famous. You just don't.
You know what I'm saying. I don't, but it's because like Sam Olin. He said, "Oh my God," they know, and Sam Olin and probably Tommy Alligood know. They said, "Deanne, I know you catch hell," because black people don't want you. Oh, y'all got to be friends with them. No, we don't have to be friends with them. We don't have to be friends with them. Oh, y'all, if Georgia Power, if somebody called me from Georgia Power talking about they were discriminating because you got dreads, we would be on Georgia Power's butt just as quick as we would anybody else's. So when our communities called us and was being ugly about things like that, That's because they're not at the table or haven't been. I mean, like Sam Olin, when he tells the stories, he said, "Oh no, y'all need to be in the room when Bonner hit the floor." I come in, I told Ragsdale last month, "Look, I don't want to hear a joke. What's the matter, Miss Bonner? I don't even want to hear a joke today because I'm not coming in here laughing because this is serious about some stuff that's going to happen. You know, there are times when we can laugh and joke, but no, we have this very serious issue about education. We need to talk about it." But, you know, really when you probably just meeting somebody, you know, you want it on a light note. But there are days when you can't do that. I don't even want to hear it.
I've heard this said many times, and I believe it. The great equalizer is education. And one of the roles you play, and that's something I would always advise people, as an individual who wants to make a difference, or NAACP, get to know your superintendents and be sure you got an open door so when things happen, they will return your call. Chris Ragsdale and I talked about this before. He actually said this: if I get 2 or 3 notes on my desk from Lieutenant Governor or somebody else, Deanne Bonner's the first one I'm gonna call.
Because it's my saving grace with God bless his heart for putting me was a learning lesson. It ain't gonna never be about me. Because when you can see what we want is like we want all of these kids to have a good education. Like Chris tells me, Chris said, well, you know, he know he got some fools. He know that. But he's the superintendent and he has to do his job his way, and eventually, hopefully, it'll get around to weeding out all of those bad apples. Because some of the stuff that we tell him, he already know. He know that there are teachers that are just getting paychecks. They're not concerned about. But that teacher of the year that they had that they gave Marietta, I had to go shake her hand. Just sitting there listening to her talk, I knew this was a real teacher. That she wanted kids to reach their potential, to be all that they could be, this, that, and the other. So we are our brother's keeper.
That's right. I'll tell you one last, I keep saying this, but just it comes back. A lot of people in our society don't want to do this today, right. But you have to have God in your life.
Yes, you have, without a doubt. There is when you can look at the young man that called our office several years ago talking about he killed black person, this, that, and the other. When I sat in the courtroom and saw him, there's no way that I was going to wish him no ill because he was 14.
Well, there's the interesting thing, and I've told you this story about our church. We used to be all white. And for a long time, it's Church of Christ. And we're about 50-50 now.
Oh, are you? How did y'all get that way?
There was a sponsor. The same things we've talked about. You know, if you're focusing, if you're in the military, and you got people on the other side shooting at you, and you're in a foxhole, there's no such thing as black and white.
Right.
Okay. If you're trying to go to heaven and not hell, that ain't no color involved. That you got something
whatsoever.
in common with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right,
churches.
Anything else that you know?
I just generally, do you want to talk about the Cobb way? Do we want to get our thoughts on that?
Well, we've sort of captured that. I just wonder, are there any good stories?
Yeah, good stories. Do you anything you want to say? I was going to give a couple names like Kessel Stelling, Bernie Brown, any of those guys.
Well,
yes, no, I know Kessel too. Let me tell you about Kessel Stellings. Kessel. I have money in, it was Bank of North Georgia. Well, Kessel was Riverside, whatever it was. I go to the bank one day, and it was during the holidays, and so the bank was just giving gifts out. I mean, cookies, whatever they was giving. And so when I get there, I mean, they didn't give me anything. And so I mentioned this. I said, well, what are you determining on giving these gifts? And, you just have to be a customer. So I don't know, whatever it was. I probably got the cookies or whatever it was. But the next time after that happened, I found out that Kessel Stellings was the chairman. I called him up and made an appointment and went in there and told him about that. I didn't appreciate the fact that, you giving all these white people a Christmas gift. And I'm a customer too, and I had to ask for mine. Well, that's how I know Kessel Stellings, and he know me now forever. When I see him and he see me, it's because that was not going to blatantly happen to me at the bank. And so now our money is at their bank. They sponsor our Freedom Fund banquet. They sponsor MLK. And they certainly, if they have anything to give away, they're going to give it to the NAACP, and especially me as a customer. At that particular time, I was a private citizen, but I had a bank account with them. And
well, being with the NAACP helps you, but Winston Strickland was Winston Strickland. And if you had nothing to do with the NAACP, you'd still be Deanne Bonner.
Oh yeah,
People still respect you.
That's exactly what most people don't know. That's what I have to tell people. I was Deanne Bonner before I became the president of the NAACP. And the NAACP gave me another platform, but that's like when I went to council, and even Al Burrows. I wasn't no president of the NAACP when Al told me, Deanne, I'll give you anything you want, but you better not ever tell nobody, because if you do, I'm going to deny it. I've had some real, wait a minute, a good one, Otis Brumby.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm talking about the daddy.
I was about to ask you.
Yeah, the Otis Brumby. Okay, the Otis Brumby wanted to know me. I mean, I guess he done heard all these stories about this damn Bob. But anyway, I go and meet Otis Brumby at the newspaper. Soon as I get in there, he said, Miss Bonner, did you know Andy Young? That's what he asked me. That just ticked me off right off the bat. First place you're going to ask me is I know another black person. No, I don't know Andy Young. You know what I'm saying? I do not know Andy Young. That is too funny to me. But do you know what, to this day, Otis Brumby, probably, the reason I'm in the paper as much as I am is because that man, after we really got to know each other, ain't nothing that we could do or ask Otis to do. I was so disheartened when I knew that he was ill. And I talked to him maybe 4 or 5 months before he actually passed. And what he told me was he was going to beat it because he was getting some treatments from someplace else. But
you know why he liked you?
I don't know why he liked me.
Otis was not scared of anybody.
No.
And we hear that over and over again. But what he respects is people that are strong and hold to their ground.
Mm-hmm.
They don't come in and suck up and kiss up. He respects people that hold their ground.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, because really and truly, like I said, after that I would call his behind in a minute when he, but he said, did you know? I said, Andy Young, no, I don't, no. You know what I'm saying? Why you asking me about Andy Young? Ask me about Sam Olin. You know what I'm saying? First person he's going to ask me about was a black person.
That's a great story.
That's
a great story. Any other stories that come to your mind?
Otis is probably a good one. We're not going to talk about Tim Lee?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, I know all the chairmen, so sure. I'll try to go away from Pat Vaughn, the mayor of Powder Springs. We became friends on the trip to Birmingham, and now if you called her tomorrow or put her in this thing, she gonna call me her sister. I mean, and she said, y'all look at her. She's black and I'm white. She said, but that's my sister. I mean, and when we were doing the things about all the mayors for the 6th city for MLK. Pat. I've been invited to lots and lots of stuff in Powder Springs. I know that, we now have a new mayor, but Pat Vaughn and I became friends. Judy Manning and I became friends. Now Judy ran. No, not Judy. Yeah, Judy Manning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was a House rep.
Right.
And when we talk about Republicans and Democrats, Judy Manning got any little few pennies that I had that I could write a check for. I wrote a check for her. I mean, so it never was for me after staying in Cobb County, and when I was asked to speak at Pam Flournoy's funeral, and so many people after that would say, "Oh, wow." I could speak about Pam because I knew her. It was from the heart, so it was nothing that I had to rehearse or had to write down. I just got up there because I miss her, and it's just, it probably, I will end with that.
Well, the Birmingham trip was historic. And you know who was actually responsible for that being successful? Not the idea, but who was responsible for that being successful?
Well, that's fine now. Who did?
Ellen. She made sure the I's got dotted and the T's got crossed.
That's
She
for
made
sure.
the
Oh,
reservations
yes.
for the hotel.
Pal.
She planned the meals.
You planned the meals, everything.
Everything. All you and
Everything
I
about
did
it.
is show
up. That's right. And did the photo op.
Did the
Because
photo
she
op.
did, right. She had the room set up. She had who's going, I mean,
Who's
yeah.
gonna sit where?
Where,
table.
right.
Yeah.
And all of that, the little stuff that we talked about those days for those little workshops and training.
Yeah.
She did set
Yeah,
up
she
all
put
of
all
that.
the
She
schedules
did all
and
the work.
But you know
She
what?
did.
In order to do successful, she had to know you too.
Oh yes. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
She had to know you.
Oh
too.
yeah. I after that we were well together. I was so glad. I'm sorry she done left Georgia Power, but I don't know them. Brett was sent me because Al Martin just became the Citizen of the Year.
Yeah,
where
right. Yes,
yeah, I
yeah.
thought that was good. But that's enough. The young oldest, the boy, he got to learn to be his father.
Yeah.
Because see, Otis knew that Cobb was more Republican than Democrats. That didn't stop. Like I told him, I said, you ain't going to put me in no box. I said, I vote very personal. When you go to the ballot and everybody's name is on there, I'm going to find Judy. I think Rose Wing was an excellent person for the Republican Party, and she supports Juneteenth. I love Rose and I. So it's been a learning process to know people and not just,
Right.
you like you said, breaking bread is one of the best way to get to know anybody.
And if you think about it, you go back and read the Bible. Jesus Christ broke bread.
All broke
At the
bread
table.
all the time, right. I mean, you may have a Judas at the table, but you still,
That's right.
that's how you learn that.
Well,
You
we got